How'd you like to listen to .NET Rocks with no ads? Easy. Become a patron. For just $5 a month, you get access to a private RSS feed where all the shows have no ads. $20 a month will get you that and a special .NET Rocks patron mug. Sign up now at patreon.netrocks.com. Hey, guess what? It's .NET Rocks, the Portuguese edition. I'm Carl Franklin.
And I'm Richard Campbell.
Yes, we are in Porto. This is day 2 of the conference. And I just realized, this morning, that this episode is going to come out the week that .NET 8 drops.
Right.
.NET Conf.
During .NET Conf. And also Ignite, for whatever reason, they decided to do those in the same week.
Yeah. So anyway, it's a momentous week for .NET developers.
Yeah. Well, we've already got the show from Jeff Fritz about .NET Conf. Came out a couple weeks before.
Yep.
So now this is the days. You should be watching the stream. And here comes this show too.
And here comes Better Know Framework. And guess what it's all about?
Ooh. All right, man. Tell me all about it.
So, Jeff Fritz and I have been doing this Blazor puzzle.
Right.
And he was able to finagle it so that we could do a Blazor puzzle during .NET Conf.
That's cool.
Now, of course, we're recording this October 19th.
Right. It's like fully a month before .NET Conf.
Clearly, month. And I have no, we haven't done it yet.
You haven't written
obviously.
Because you've done a couple of Blazor puzzles with him now,
Oh,
right?
several. Yeah. I think
How do you describe them?
Yeah, okay. So if you remember the puzzler on Car Talk.
Right.
Basically, they do these things people call in with their car
My car's
problems.
making this noise.
Yeah. Well, the puzzler was sometimes automotive and it was sometimes not. Sometimes it was just a brain teaser, about maybe people and their relations and whatever it could be.
Wire manhole covers round.
Exactly. Yeah. So is the puzzler. And they would have the answer to last week's puzzler, a winner, and then the new puzzler for next week.
Right.
And it was great fun.
Yeah.
And so that's what it is. It's basically we give you a Blazor problem to be solved. And we ask that you don't post the answer on social media. We have an email alias, blazorpuzzle@appvnext.com.
Right.
You send your answer. And if you get the right answer, you go in a pool, we pick a winner randomly, and then that person gets a Blazor puzzle mug, which is the only way you can get one, and a Blazor puzzle t-shirt.
Cool.
So that's it.
And then
they're only 10 minutes long.
Yeah. They're tasty little nuggets.
Tasty little nuggets, and you learn something too. So all I know is that by now, the Blazor puzzle .NET Conf version should be available at the .NET Conf website.
Right.
So go check it out.
You'll have done it by the time you can hear this show.
I will have.
Yeah.
Yes.
Cool.
That's what I got. Who's talking to us, Richard?
Speaking of Jeff Fritz, we didn't plan this.
No, we didn't plan this.
I pulled a comment from show 1725, the one we did with Jeff Fritz.
That's cool.
Talking about Blazor static web apps.
Yeah.
And this comment's from Rod Gardner, who says, I've been teaching Blazor, and it's so much easier than the previous ways of building .NET websites. It's actually fun to get rid of things I need to teach the student to be able to produce a product. So we can have one course that teaches all C# .NET Blazor web development, and then another course that teaches React or Node, and then the student can mix and match the technologies.
Very cool.
At their leisure and complete both. So now each course is focused in a wonderful way.
Yeah.
So, and it's just an important part of it is recognizing that as much as Blazor is all the C# stuff, there's lots of room for React type components and that kind of thing involved in it as well.
And that doesn't change in .NET 8, by the way.
No.
Yeah.
No, but we're going to talk about Reactor server components.
Yeah.
And that might be different. So, Rob, thank you so much for your comment, and a copy of Music to Go By is on its way to you. And if you'd like a copy of Music to Go By, write a comment on the website at .NETRocks.com or on the Facebooks. We publish every show there. And if you comment there and I read it on the show, we'll send you a copy of Music to Go By.
And you can follow us on Twitter if you like, but the real cool kids are over on Mastodon. I'm at Carl Franklin at techhub.social.
And I'm Rich Campbell at Mastodon.social.
Rudy Tooty Toot Toot Toot.
You get smarter all the time. I get it.
I know. Actually, the opposite is true. Okay, let's bring on our guest who's been sitting here patiently waiting to talk. Aurora Walberg is a full-stack cloud developer from Norway. She is skilled in multiple technologies and domains such as React, Angular, .NET, and Azure, and has recently gained a great interest in web development specifically.
She holds a bachelor's degree in robotics and intelligent systems with knowledge of engineering, mathematics, robotics, algorithms, data structures, and computer architecture. After working for a couple of years at a financial technology startup, she continues developing as a consultant at InMeta. Did I say that right? InMeta?
I would say InMeta.
InMeta.
Yeah. But then people will think you work for Meta, so I don't recommend that. In Meta, yes.
Yeah, so emphasis on the in.
Facebook changes their name and ruins your day.
We had it first.
Yeah.
We had it like year 2000. That was our name.
If it was in Greece, it'd be in feta.
That's good.
Okay.
It's not good. It's bad.
No, it's really
it's all
not.
bad. Everything's bad about
Lord,
that.
I apologize. React server components. I've never heard of this. What is this?
So this is basically normal React components. You code them like normal, but they're only run server side. This lets you just pre-render everything there, and then when you open your browser, you don't have to wait for them to load. They're just pre-rendered.
So they're actually pre-rendered sitting on the server, and you're just downloading the finished HTML to the browser.
Yeah.
So they are still UI,
yeah.
but it's just rendered UI.
Yes. There's a lot to it, but that's what you can think of it when you're coding with it.
Okay.
Yes.
So, yeah, my first instinct as an e-commerce guy was making that landing page as fast as possible.
Yeah, it's essentially that. But the thing is, you would already have this with, for example, server-side rendering in like Next.js. Mm-hmm. But what's different here is that you don't have to add any JavaScript to these, because you know that they're not going to be ever like rendered on the client. So you can keep them static, which is why they're different from... And
you can access your sensitive resources directly without worrying about exposing them.
Exactly. Yeah, that's basically it. And what makes them good is that you can, work normally with your React, but then optimize it with server components.
If you're a React front-end developer, this is very attractive to you.
Yes, indeed.
Can you connect with your front-end React components as well? And obviously...
You can weave them together. And mostly it's like straightforward, but there are some things that you can't do. Mm-hmm. Like, since this is like client versus server side, you can't pass functions.
I see, yeah.
Since, you're communicating across the network here. That's essentially the most important limitation. And then to optimize your page, you have to do some new patterns to, for example, make sure if you have a server component inside like a normal component, that it doesn't get rendered on the client side.
Right.
So you have some new patterns that you have to follow.
Okay. So let's say I have a server component that has a page with a button.
Yeah.
The button is going to render on the client.
Yep.
And then there's some React stuff behind that button that connects back to the server and does a round trip kind of thing? Or?
There's many ways to do that.
Yeah.
So since you would be here communicating back to the server, you have to, if it's a function, you want to pass something, you can make an endpoint back to the server, which from my impression is that's very common for the Pages router.
Yeah.
But one of the very exciting things about Next.js 13 and React Server Components is that you have these server actions.
Okay.
I don't know if you want to jump into this yet. Or
I think yes? I think our audience is following right along.
Okay, good. So basically what you can do is you can have Next.js make this hidden API endpoint for you that just lets you seamlessly just communicate with the server, like actions.
Okay.
Without doing anything fancy. Just make a function and then just call it from anywhere, like a client component.
Yeah.
So, I've just been grabbing links for like React Server Components. And then there's the Next.js.
Yep.
But those are really React Server Components anyway.
The thing is, it's very kind of complicated because you have the React Server Components, but then you have Next.js, but it's two different things. But React Server Components are built like together with Next.js 13.
Right.
So Vercel and React are like collaborating here to build this because it's really hard to get the proper setup for RSC without this whole like bundler routing setup that Next.js has.
They need to get along to make this work.
So they've been communicating and collaborating to make this work in Next.js 13.
Because Next.js has been about server rendering stuff for quite a while, right?
Yes.
RCS is new.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's because Next.js old, like Pages router. Huh?
It's RSC.
Yeah, RSC.
I'm going to say that because it's faster, because you say it a lot. So
yeah. Don't do a Sean Wildermuth GPRC.
I know. Well,
RSC.
Well, I was just doing some space stuff, so RCS is reaction control system. So, it's RSC.
Okay.
And then RSCs, like React Server Components.
Oh, no. Yeah. No plurals, please.
So there are multiple ways to go about doing a web app now with RSC. Thank you. So I guess you would call these rendering strategies?
Yes. It's a very... when I was doing my talk here at NDC Porto, I was like going through the typical rendering strategies first, because it's very hard to wrap your head around this if you don't have some kind of background knowledge of the rendering strategies of the web.
Okay, but aren't the choices client or server?
Yes. Yeah. Well, in RSC or React Next.js 13, you're going to pick between client and server.
Right. And can you have a little mix and match? So it's like I've got some static stuff I can pre-render on the server and send it down, and then you've got islands of dynamic that can fetch from services to render on the client.
Yeah. That's correct.
Okay.
And I don't know, because you're saying islands. What does that, why do you say that?
Something inside of a div tag, I
Okay.
bet.
That's very interesting, because there's this other framework that has this as their rendering strategy.
Okay. So this is not how Next.js would do it?
It's a bit different, because an island you kind of think of as, okay, here there's some JavaScript code.
Like inside this tag, there's some code that invokes a call.
Yeah. But you can also weave more server stuff inside here. So it's not just like an island of client, it's also server components inside, if you would want that.
Right.
So you can pre-render like multiple components and then put them inside the tree.
Then programmatically on the client decide where you're going to stick them?
Yep.
Okay. That's
like,
interesting. So now
it's reference-based.
I love this. I had a server component to a client component that used a server component.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's inception-y.
Yeah.
I figure by the fourth or fifth iteration of this, you must be getting slower.
Some Russian doll stuff going on there. I mean, I'm trying to relate this to, how Blazor 8 works, right? Because Blazor 8, you've got a client model, you've got a server model, and then you got this hybrid model that starts off on the server and ends up on the client.
Yeah.
That's kind of where the complexity ends, I think.
Well, I could have said XAML clients, islands, but that would have made everybody sad. So I'm not going to say that.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. But I was definitely thinking in terms of there's a tag. But you also, have post-processing code renders. So, page finishes rendering, and then on the finish, some code kicks off and now wants to do some populating in places and maybe does some spage behavior based on the user
there's some spage behavior as well. But this will be for those components that are client-side.
Right.
You don't need anything else.
I'm really happy that we all have the same glossary there, that we agree.
Well, it's a part of my glossary now.
Yeah, things can be spage,
Spage.
But it's, an interactive part of the code that is going to fetch data in a non-rendered state and rendered on the client.
Yeah, but most of the time you would want your data to be fetched on the server. So you don't need to fetch your data from these client components.
Where when I think about a spa, it's really, you're making trips to go get data and then decide what you want to do. But I guess that's the interesting part about this is you don't want to be purely static. That limits what you can do. But you want dynamic with as little work happening on the client. So you literally, I was teasing about the whole, hey, the client called the server components, but that's how you avoid the compute that is already rendered on the server. If the user goes down this path and clicks on this part where they're going to need this list, well, now go get that server computed piece that is the list.
What are some of the use cases where RSCs?
You can say React Server Components. It's okay.
Shine. Where they really do their best.
It's like, since this is like new React, it's kind of built for anything. So typically if you have like a page that has a lot of static data, that's great. Or you need to fetch a bunch of data on the server. But then you can also weave in the client kind of freely. Right. There's not many limitations to how you can weave these client components in. But you can even just have this shell of server components and have like full spa-ish behavior inside if you want. And it doesn't really limit you in any way. That's okay.
So it's great for maybe low power mobile devices because it's fast to get down and there isn't a lot of overhead. And you can, is there a big with React anyway? Is there a big download for JavaScript download with React?
Well, you do need the main React bundle like you would in a spa. So you could say that, okay, you're downloading a bunch of React code anyway. Yeah. But then once you have it, you can limit
Sure.
the extra JavaScript.
Do you have any
that
idea
need.
about how big that is?
I don't remember the numbers.
I don't know either. Yeah.
Yeah, React's Redux is like a meg,
A meg?
but that's React Redux, which is not what we're doing
But
here.
you need like the base React
Yeah.
and Next, and then after that you're going to be able to limit how much JavaScript you're going to be downloading.
300K.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that'd be about right.
Okay.
So there's an argument. Okay, you're doing this, but you're downloading all this anyway. But
Yeah, it's not
once you have
not
it,
a lot. Though.
No, and you end up caching it pretty quickly. I mean,
Yeah.
actually, I feel like a lot of what we're talking about is another kind of caching strategy, right? You've pre-rendered chunks of data.
Yep.
You're just really kind of building out a cache on that. Like,
Yeah, you're building your cache when you have this.
I jumped through a lot of hoops to make landing pages on e-commerce sites fast, where we would literally sprite the images as data in the page so that you wouldn't go trip and get the image. Sure. Like anything we could do to just make this one page go, wham, we're here. Thanks for
Our .NET
playing.
Rocks page, for example, uses streaming to get the first 20 episodes or whatever.
Right.
And then
right.
as
That's
by the
good.
time you're down to the last one, and
The
the,
other one's
NDC
coming.
page does the same
Yeah,
thing.
yeah.
Oh, you can do this also with React Server Components. Like pick
Yeah.
what parts are more important, like your 20 episodes, and then
Sure.
stream the rest.
The question with any cache is, when do you expire? How often do I refresh that? But I feel like on a server side, that's not that scary. That you know when to refresh, that you have events that can occur. That will
You can
stimulate
trigger. So
re-render.
these server actions, you can tell them to refresh your cache, basically.
Yeah. I mean, my battered old soul in scaling websites over the years, like just refresh at interval. It's like your desperate urge to do logical refresh just causes you more grief than, hey, this doesn't change more than once a day. How about just refresh it every day?
That's fine if the content is,
Yeah. If it's only going to change once a day.
Yeah.
Do React
How often do you have new episodes?
Once a week, right? Like you write on it, like at once a week, it's a pretty safe bet.
Yeah.
do React Server Components maintain state for each user?
What do you mean by that?
Okay, so do I know things about the user that and I can keep variables and lists and things just for them in between round trips?
I mean, if it's like saved to the user, what do you mean?
All right, so scoped to the user. So let's say I've got some variables on the server that are like, your name, your address, your whatever. I mean, those are dumb examples, but and your email address, and I want to keep those around between calls, so I can build up some state.
Right.
Maybe it's a list of things that are in my shopping cart, for example, or whatever.
I mean, okay, so this RSC, they render on the server, so you can do like user specific stuff there, and then you get this. It's not HTML, but you can think of it as like this tree, and then this will be cached on the next request. So you have this cached, and this is like per user in the server.
All right. So you do have a place where you can stash things per user. That's good. Yeah.
Yeah. So the shopping scenario is a good one, but I guess the cart's really living on the server, and you're just carrying a token to having access to it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, sorry.
Like I'm just trying to figure out if I'm filling in a shopping cart in this model, as I add an item, I have an identifier for the session, right? Probably a user cookie of some kind. And that's how I'm tying it to previous interactions to build up a shopping cart.
What is the question?
No, it's just like, am I thinking that's the right way? Like, how do I know that I'm putting stuff
maybe
in the
these are
shopping cart?
the wrong questions.
Yeah.
I mean, in the end, you're generating UI. You're generating static HTML,
Right.
right?
You can think of it that way, yeah. But
Yeah.
obviously you have your cookies and everything in these server
Yeah.
components.
So all of this usual mechanisms.
All the
yeah,
usual
usual mechanisms. This
mechanisms, right?
is
Yeah.
normal
No,
stuff.
Maybe in a
Yeah.
Redis cache or in
Yeah.
something else, some
So-
other place.
Yeah. All that is server side storage.
Yeah, server-side GUI.
Yep.
So what about integrating server components into an existing React application? Is that
An
challenging?
existing like Next.js app?
Yeah,
Yeah.
an existing Next.js.
Okay, yeah. So an existing Next.js app would typically be like Pages Router. And it's kind of hard because this is like a new coding pattern. And if you're using lots of state or like state management, like context, you can't use it the same way. But what you can do is you can use the app router alongside the Pages Router and then move some routes, for example, to this new router.
Okay.
Well, without messing up all the code that you have.
And do you have to be on Next.js 13 in order to do that?
Yep.
Yeah. So you want to make sure you're there.
Yeah, but when you make new Next apps now, it's going to be 13, and you can pick like Pages or apps.
Yeah.
So
If you have an older one,
yeah,
why
I
would
think
you
I think
would
you
you
would be
not
able to
upgrade?
upgrade just Next 13,
Yeah.
keep the pages, don't do anything and nothing changes, and then integrate your app router
Sure.
with the parts that will benefit the most from it.
Sure.
Yeah, it's always a question of how much trouble it is to upgrade to the latest.
Oh yeah, but since
Yes.
it's like a separate folder,
Yeah.
it's like a pages folder and an app folder, you don't have to mix them. You
Right.
can just pick, okay, for example, this page is like all static, I'll just put this, or this is like benefiting from RC, I'll just put this
Yeah.
in the new way of doing it, because it doesn't really, they don't mix.
Yeah, and you don't need to mix them either.
You know.
Keep using the old page.
Yep.
As long as you're feeding the same back end so they can get the data, you can render differently on the new
Yeah.
pages.
Yep.
So, do you have any real world stories you can share about?
Yeah.
Yeah, let's hear them.
I took kind of, not a risk, but I decided to use RC in my project at my consultancy, or in my consultancy project. And there were some things that I had to figure out, when I was researching this. So for example, since this is very new, things like testing and internationalization and custom libraries, they don't have support or there's not that much support yet or resources about it.
Okay.
So for example, in my project, we have this component library, part of the design system of the customer, and it's obviously not built for RC. So it doesn't have this use client directive that you need to define that something is client side.
Right.
So to tell Next.js that this is in fact containing state, for example, you have to make a wrapper component around it that just tells Next.js, okay, this is going to be containing client-side logic.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's like some extra work that you have to do.
Yeah, like plumbing.
Yeah. It works really well, but you have to, still do it
You have to think about that.
and think about it.
Yeah.
And also, if you're going to be rendering something server-side inside these components from the library, you have to make a wrapper so that you can slot these other server components inside. Because that's what you have to do. If you want to have server code inside client code, you need to pass it down as a React prop.
Okay.
Because that's when it becomes this reference that the client component can say, oh, I have some kind of thing here. I don't know what it is.
Now,
but I'm gonna place it.
is it actually going to be pre-rendered on the server to be fetched, or is the call for it then going to render it on the server and then send
It's
it down?
just a reference, so it has this already. Or
Okay.
it's gonna get it, but it's already rendered for you.
Right.
So it's just, oh, I have some code here. I don't know what it is. Let me just
Request it.
request
Here
it by
goes.
reference and then
Place it on the
this is it.
page.
Yeah.
Okay.
And something else, for example, testing. So, React testing library doesn't have a built-in method to test async components.
Okay.
And this is something that came with React Server Components, async components, which is what you need to add to await data inside a component.
Right.
And as for now, you have to kind of make this workaround to await when you're testing. And I've seen a couple different workarounds, and some of them work, some of them don't. It's kind of, you have to be like paying attention to the thread on GitHub. Okay, what can I do? Is this better now? So
when you put your future glasses on, do you think that this will get it easier? Is it just
for
like
sure.
version 1 problems kind of thing?
oh yeah, for sure. People are already working on fixes for this, and there's workarounds. So you can just have this workaround for now, but be aware that, okay, if you're going to have testing, maybe you have to make some workarounds until
okay.
it's more
Until
figured
it gets
out.
better. It is new.
It's new.
Yeah.
Yeah. And especially things like testing. It comes later.
Usually
Testing always
the
comes
last
later.
thing they
Yeah.
think about, right?
And all the people who make like
Testing.
example apps, they don't add testing.
No,
to
leave.
this.
Now you're
Why would
talking-
they do that?
That's no
Talking
fun.
crazy talk.
Yeah.
That's not a thing.
Yeah.
Is it easy to manage dependencies?
Well, it depends. For example, if you're using like any library that, like I was saying, like contains state, you have to. It has to be made like implemented for RC.
Right.
So if you're using like Material UI, okay, it didn't have support for this until like a couple. I don't remember when. Maybe a month ago,
Right.
some weeks ago.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Depends on what else you mean by managed dependencies.
Yeah, this still feels like this is something you're going to search each time. It's like, where are you at with Material? Oh, support. That's great. Okay.
But
Yeah.
it's good now, so
Yeah.
you can use it. I wonder how they did that, because Material surely uses a lot of,
Yeah, it's complicated.
I don't know. I need to research that more.
Yeah. But yeah, different libraries going to come into play.
Do you use standard JavaScript error handling techniques on the server? Or
I would say like standard for Next.js.
for Next.js, yeah.
Yeah, you can error handle there and send it back to the client. Yep.
All right, and Aurora, I'm going to interrupt for one moment for this very important message.
Or two.
Or two messages. You never know.
Maybe even three.
And we're back. It's .NET Rocks. I'm Richard Campbell. That's Carl Franklin.
Hey.
And we're talking to Aurora Walberg here at NDC Porto with our view of Gaia on across the river.
Yeah.
A bit about React Server Components, RSC.
Do you notice how the sun only shines when we're here recording?
Inside.
You know,
Is
we
that
go
sun?
outside, it rains on us.
It was,
Come inside, sun!
yeah, it was bucketing to get here this morning. Yeah, it was really something. I mean, this feels like early days for RSC.
Yes. But I think a lot of people are just scared to try it because it's more complicated.
Sure, but it's also it's pushing against this whole static websites. Like there's a reason these features are emerging because they are efficient when done properly.
Yep.
But this is always a trade. I'm going to add complexity
Right.
for
Exactly.
speed,
Exactly.
ultimately.
Yep.
So you got to balance those two things.
Exactly. But I would say if you kind of get through the complexity,
Yeah.
then after you know it, you know it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, okay, you were learning React and it was complex to learn everything like effects and that in the beginning, but then you know it and it's good and then
Yeah,
everyone
it's
knows
just
it
part of your
and
process.
okay,
Yeah.
this is the way we do things now.
Yeah.
So when you learn the patterns for RC, I would say it's pretty efficient to just code that way instead.
Yeah. And you do get a bunch of benefits, like
A lot.
the net behavior for the server and the client are going to be pretty good.
And actually, a lot of things are easier. For example, like fetching data. You just fetch it and then it's there. You don't have to worry about it at all. So things are easier as well.
Yeah, there's a lot that's just happening under the hood as a server component. You don't have to think about,
Yep.
I've written that code. Like, that's no fun. So, yeah, great that it takes care of it. But what are you looking at for what comes next for RSC?
Well, I'm using it and I'm obviously hoping that my testing is going to be easier.
Yeah.
I just want to see more, like bigger products with it.
Yeah.
Cause I'm always looking for reference code.
Yeah.
And
Sample apps.
Sample apps.
Yeah, stuff that's
and
out
there
there.
are some, but again, it's not like a production app. It's just somebody's project that they're trying out
There's
things
still
in.
a lot of people experimenting with
A
it.
lot of people experimenting, yeah.
But like you said, Material UI seems to have put some effort into making it work properly.
Yes, but it took them a really long time. So there was this discussion about that Next.js should have let library authors start this before they were like, okay, this is stable now. Because then they're saying it's stable, but then there's no support for the things that people want to use.
Right. So it's crippled too.
I think that slows down
And you
the
were saying
process.
long time in web terms, which is not that long a time.
Yeah. Do you have like a conversion?
Yeah.
Web to web?
Yeah.
Dog
Well,
years.
the difference between web time and physical time. It hasn't been that long, but it's interesting that they would hold back, like discourage people from starting to adapt it while they were making the initial version.
And I think that has also contributed to people being hesitant because, okay, it doesn't work with Material. I guess there's probably more things.
I can't do this. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and then you can't like catch up. Okay, I don't know what's compatible and what's not. So I'll just wait until I see that somebody else is using it, right?
But if nobody uses it, there's not a lot of incentive to put the effort into making all these other libraries work with it.
But I think, this is React 18 has a lot of features that is really only usable or efficient in Next.js.
Right.
So it's gonna get there for sure. Like, for example, this concurrency mode, which is in React 18, which lets you, define non-blocking actions or state updates. There's this use transition. You can wrap it around, for example, a server call and then do other things while or interrupt it while it's calling.
Right.
So there's a lot of things that you're going to want that's with React that you need to use React Server Components to get the most out of.
But Next.js always plays a big role in this.
Yeah, because they've been developing this together because it's kind of, you need this framework. You can't just use them on your own. It's too complicated.
But I'm just realizing other times we've talked about React here, we've gone more like the React and Redux approach, which seems very different from what you're describing.
Yeah, because now you have all your data on the server.
Right. Yeah.
So, apparently Mux.com has upgraded to use adopted React Server components. It involved transitioning 50,000 lines of code to incorporate the use of RSC, indicating a substantial adoption. They have about 5,000 customers.
I wonder why they decided to do that, because from what I'm like, it doesn't seem like you would want to migrate your app directly.
Mm-hmm.
No, they migrated their domains mux.com and docs.mux.com to utilize React server components. So it was a migration. Yeah.
That's a lot of work. I don't think you should be considering, okay, I'm going to migrate all my apps now. That's a lot of work because it's like a complete different pattern. You have to think about these limitations. You can't just call your server from anywhere, right? So that seems like something not anyone would want to do.
Yeah, I'm surprised they did it.
Yeah.
And this is the video online organization, MUX.
MUX, M-U-X.
Yeah.
So they wanted performance improvements and a
that's
modern
fair.
architecture.
That's fair.
I'm looking for some metrics right now, but if I find some, I'll let you know.
It's just, that's always interesting. It's like, hey, if we just re-engineered the whole site, it'll go faster, which to me reads like, hey, leave us alone for 4 months.
Yeah.
Because we got to re-engineer this thing.
How was your migration? Did you just update your site?
Carl rewrote the old SPA site into a Blazor site.
Right.
Blazor server.
Is it, can I use your site?
Sure.
Yeah.
.netrocks.com.
Yeah.
I'm kidding.
Could it be a server? Could it be a React server component site? Yeah, I don't know.
No, probably not. Not if you want me to write it.
Rewrite again.
You wouldn't want that.
No.
But I do plan on moving it to Blazor 8. It's probably already there by now, but Blazor 8 in auto mode. That's what it's going to be.
Yeah, so that you have the choice of client and server side renders.
Yeah.
It is interesting the amount of convergence that's going on with these different web technologies around the mixing of client execution and server execution.
Oh, yeah.
Like just we're all trying to do this now. Like is it just a hip solution or is it really that powerful?
All right, so this is good. Let me answer before you answer. I asked ChatGPT, was this migration a success? And it says, this is great. The documentation about Mux's migration to RSC does not provide specific metrics or explicitly state whether the migration was a success. However, this is great. However, the article mentions that moving to React Server components was, quote, probably worth it, unquote.
And only probably worth it.
Probably worth it. Oh, that's great. So, meh.
I don't know. Maybe.
I'm not recommending migrating, by the way. I'm just recommending new projects.
New projects.
New projects.
Yeah, I just wanted to find out if there was somebody who went ahead and did it.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting. And then they did the hard thing. They took existing working code and threw it into a new model.
Lot of work.
It's a good way to make code that used to work not work.
Probably worth it.
I mean, really, probably worth it. At the same time, like, if you've heavily optimized a site, especially talk about something like a video streaming site like Mux, like that's not a trivial problem.
No.
You're looking for, like, what's the performance gain that lets you want to take that bet?
I wonder the reasoning.
Yeah. What's the gain you're looking for?
Well, if I could intuit what they mean by probably worth it is right now, meh, but in the future as things get better and we get to version 2 or 3.
If they're like, I don't know, maybe they're like planning for the future kind of. They want to do it now so that when they add things, it's not going to make the site slower.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Unless RCS pulls an Angular, right?
Better be an RSC. No, the complete rewrite from 1.1 to 2.
Yeah, if they pull an Angular, these guys are screwed.
Do it again. Well, let's go back to the old one. It'll be fine. Or have we actually found a case where it's like, hey, we got a way to work on something and be left alone for a few months, so we re-engineered the whole site.
As for this, you said it was like trendy, this like server client. Mm-hmm. I think it's just everybody's just trying to find a solution because they're tired of pages not being interactive.
Right.
You know?
Well, the great old the spa bunk.
Well,
right?
not only
Half
the spa,
the page
but
is down. It's just sort of sitting there for a while.
Yep.
You got a lot of spinners.
Yeah.
And then also you click a button and it doesn't
and then more
nothing.
spinners and running around. It's, there's from a sysadmin perspective, when you want to see spas really happy, you just shut the DNS servers off and watch them go.
Yeah.
They're just, and the problem is that the page has no way to cope with that. So suddenly it doesn't know where it's going. And so it's just spinning. Like that's the problem. The main thing that makes people angry about spas is that when it fails opaquely.
Yeah.
You just don't know what didn't render in that box or why it didn't render. It's hard to make it feel like you know what's going on.
But then again, it is a good signal to the client that, oh, maybe my internet went down, or maybe my Wi-Fi router is rebooting,
but my browser's still open. Everything should be fine. Yeah.
Modal dialogue pops up. You're screwed.
Yeah. Something bad has happened. Okay.
Okay.
I mean, it's bad enough.
You have to agree with
You have to agree that it's bad. I'm not going to do anything until you agree with me that it's bad. There's never a not okay.
No, it's not okay.
You know, I bet you almost every okay buddy would be better if it said not okay on it.
Or it's the thumbs down button.
Yeah.
Oh,
I'm sorry, what were we talking about?
we were talking about something about RSC.
Yeah. You're going to get it one of these days for sure.
Yeah. I just want to hear about some more gotchas that you think will be evened out over time. Anything that we missed?
What do you mean? Sorry.
Gotchas. In other words, you know, things that people who are going to get started might fall into a trap or have to
mistakes.
Work around.
Yeah. For example, your new coding pattern that you have to think about. Okay, if I want the server code inside this client code.
Yeah.
If I just put a component there, it's going to turn into client code, and then I'm just back at my normal starting point.
Is it me, or is it kind of a mind, you know what, to have to figure out a server with a client, with a server, with two clients, and then one of those clients has a server? Does it really get that complicated?
You could say, but it's not complicated once you have this idea in your head, or like a mental model, as they say. It just kind of goes naturally. You know what to do.
Yeah.
You don't have to have this entire tree in your head.
Oh.
You just kind of.
So like once you get to a point where you need some interaction, you say, okay, well, that's a client.
That's a component. And it becomes very organized because since all your code is like separated this way, it's very easy to kind of follow through. Like if you're looking at code, okay, you can just click this. It's a component. It's on the client. You know what type of logic it's going to contain.
And the guardrails are in there. Like there's no way that I can write client code that tries to, you know, use a database connection string to go out and do something.
I mean, it's not going to be a client component unless you tell it to. So, and if you try to do that, I mean, it doesn't exist there. There's no connection string on the client.
Sure.
So it's going to be hard.
But it's still possible for me, as if I'm a dumb computer programmer, to put secrets on the client. Nobody's keeping me from doing that. You can
hard code it in there, but that's very well done if you're able to hard code it specifically into a client component.
You're going to get a call. Mr. Franklin, the boss wants to see you now.
What have you done?
What did you do? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, it's complex, but it's no more complex than anything that you would do in Next.js. In fact, it sounds like it's simplifying Next.js.
Yeah, for me, it's been really good. Like, okay, it was, you know, reading about it in the beginning. Okay, this is how it works. And then you get into it, and then you kind of unlock this new world, and it's very natural to use it. Just kind of code, and it works the way you expect it to, in my opinion.
Would you recommend that people look at it now as a solution they can use in production, or would you wait?
I would maybe, I mean, I'm doing so, but I have yet to see kind of the results of this.
Yeah.
So I would want to just have some more.
It's probably worth it.
It's probably worth it.
Well, clearly the Mux people think that, so we're not the only ones.
But I don't know. I would have to have some more experience and some more data points.
So it's more like, you know, if you're a React client programmer and you want to keep your skills sharp, check it out.
For
Play
sure.
around with it.
But then also, like, why would you go back and use the Pages router if you have this?
Okay.
That's kind of what my justification was. Why would I pick the old one when there's this new one that's simplifying things and less clunky to use?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm wondering about folks they're down the React path. They're running into some performance problems and things like this, and they're thinking about jumping to another server tech.
For sure.
And it's
Try
like,
it out.
hey,
Definitely.
look, we already know how to do React, and and RSC seems to be able to help us. So I'm not saying we go whole hog yet, but this sounds like a spike. Like, let's pick the problem page.
It's fixing problems, for sure.
Build another version of just that page.
Yeah.
You know,
try
the
that.
old one will still be there, but let's try this one and see if it makes a difference.
And also, if you're like considering this for your production apps or whatever, it could be good to do some research. And maybe if you have a specific requirements that you know you need, like mine was like internationalization and component library, you know, try it out in like a prototype first. See if you can solve it. How much work is it?
Yeah.
You know,
How much battle did we do to get that?
Just
And then
check.
bench them together. Like there's a lot you could do just spiking on a page like that.
you just check it out, see how it works. If you have something that's, you know, non-standard.
And if it's not, it might you may bump into features that aren't quite ready yet, or you may have dependencies that are problematic.
Yep.
If you don't, beautiful.
Beautiful.
If you do, work around or
Consider
shelve it for a couple of months and look at it again
Exactly.
as more of the library start to adopt.
Or call Aurora.walberg.com.
Yes.
She'll do, right?
Oh. Yeah, I put something about testing there on my blog.
Okay.
That's my experience with testing.
You
What
work
is-
at the sales pipeline for InMeta now.
Yeah. So how can people get a hold of you?
Twitter. Twitter's good. It's Aurora_Walberg. You can contact me there. And I have a lot, like I don't have any much public code, but anything that people want to talk about RC, I want to know
Well,
their
certainly you're
experience.
available for consulting when somebody wants to.
Oh, yes.
They want to go that far.
Yeah. All right. So what's next for you? What's in your inbox?
Talks or
All of those things.
Anything.
I'm here. It's
Yeah.
very exciting. And I'm going to a Norwegian conference next week.
Nice.
Okay.
Actually, it's Monday. I'm going to talk about Astro, those islands you were mentioning by accident. They have this island architecture that they call it.
Right.
So I'm going to be talking about that there.
Yeah, that's cool.
It's another web framework. Very interesting also.
Well, you're all the web frameworks then.
And then, I have to catch up some hours now that I've been here in Portugal.
Yeah, you've been having too much fun now.
So I have to work
Yes.
for my project again.
Yeah, some billing hours done.
Well, thank you very much. This has been an eye-opener for me. Like I said, I don't really know much about React, and I certainly don't really know about JavaScript on the server all that much. But it's been really interesting. I'm going to keep watching this.
Good.
And we'd like to have you back, when it hits version 3.
Great. I'll be there.
You mean Wednesday?
All right. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
And we'll see you next time on .NET Rocks. .NET Rocks is brought to you by Franklin's Net and produced by Plop Studios, a full-service audio, video, and post-production facility located physically in New London, Connecticut, and of course in the cloud. Online at pwop.com. Visit our website at dotnetrocks.com for RSS feeds, downloads, mobile apps, comments, and access to the full archives going back to show number 1, recorded in September 2002. And make sure you check out our sponsors. They keep us in business. Now go write some code. See you next time.
Transmitter banned by the FCC. Yes, I'm a